Logan Paul and Austin Theory nearly came to blows in what insiders are calling the most explosive backstage confrontation in Monday Night Raw history, and what happened behind those curtains has the entire wrestling world demanding answers, because this wasn't just two superstars having a heated exchange, this was a complete meltdown that had security scrambling, producers panicking, and both men saying things that cannot be taken back. If you want to know exactly what was said, exactly what triggered this nuclear confrontation, and why WWE officials are now in full damage control mode, you need to stay with me until the very end of this video, because the details that are emerging are absolutely insane. And before we dive into this chaos, if you love wrestling drama and want to stay updated on every backstage controversy, every locker room fight, and every moment of chaos that WWE doesn't want you to know about, smash that subscribe button right now, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment telling me whose side you're on in this situation, because this comment section is about to be a war zone. Let me set the stage for you, because this confrontation didn't come out of nowhere. This has been building for months and the pressure finally exploded in the worst possible way. Logan Paul, the YouTube megastar turned WWE sensation, has been making waves in professional wrestling since he first stepped through those ropes, and love him or hate him, you cannot deny that he's brought mainstream attention to WWE that the company desperately needed. His matches have been spectacular, his athleticism is undeniable, and his ability to generate heat is almost supernatural. But here's the problem: Logan Paul knows he's a draw, he knows he's bringing eyeballs to the product, and according to multiple sources backstage, he's been acting like the rules don't apply to him. He shows up when he wants, he leaves when he wants, he demands creative control over his segments, and he's been rubbing a lot of the full-time roster the wrong way with his part-time schedule and full-time ego. Now enter Austin Theory, the young superstar who WWE has been positioning as one of the future pillars of the company. Theory is everything Vince McMahon and now Triple H want in a WWE superstar. He's got the look, he's got the athleticism, he's got the charisma, and most importantly, he's there every single week grinding it out on the road while guys like Logan Paul parachute in for the big shows, collect their massive paychecks, and then disappear back to their podcasts and energy drink businesses. Theory has paid his dues in NXT, he's worked his way up through the system, and he's been vocal, maybe too vocal, about his frustration with part-time stars getting opportunities that should go to full-time performers who are there every Monday, every Friday, and every house show in between. The tension between these two has been simmering for a while now, with Theory making subtle comments in interviews about wrestlers who don't respect the business and Logan firing back on social media with his typical trolling behavior that his fans love and wrestling purists absolutely despise. But on this particular Monday Night Raw, something happened that took this rivalry from social media jabs and subtle shots to a full-blown physical confrontation that had everyone backstage talking. Multiple sources, and I'm talking about people who were literally feet away from this incident, have confirmed that Logan Paul and Austin Theory got into each other's faces in the gorilla position, which for those who don't know is the staging area right behind the curtain where wrestlers wait before they go out to the ring, and what started as a verbal exchange quickly escalated into pushing, shoving, and both men having to be physically separated by several other wrestlers and members of the production team. Here's what we know about how this started, and this is where it gets really interesting, because depending on who you ask, you're going to get a completely different version of events. According to sources close to Logan Paul's camp, Austin Theory walked up to Logan in the gorilla position and immediately started running his mouth about Logan not being a real wrestler, about him taking spots away from guys who deserve them, and about him being nothing more than a celebrity playing dress-up. Logan, never one to back down from confrontation, especially after years of dealing with internet hate and public controversies, fired back by telling Theory that he's accomplished more in 2 years of wrestling than Theory has in his entire career, that Theory is just bitter because Logan gets bigger reactions despite being there part-time, and that maybe if Theory focused more on improving his promo skills instead of complaining about other people's success, he'd actually be main eventing WrestleMania instead of opening the kickoff show. If you think Logan crossed a line with that comment, hit that like button right now and let me know in the comments. But that's Logan's side of the story, and you know there's always multiple perspectives in these situations. According to sources close to Austin Theory, the confrontation started because Logan was being disrespectful to the producers and agents who were trying to give him instructions for his segment that night. Theory apparently witnessed Logan dismissing the agent's notes, saying something along the lines of he knows what he's doing and he doesn't need some retired wrestler telling him how to get a reaction from the crowd. Theory, who has tremendous respect for the veterans and the people behind the scenes who make WWE function, took offense to this and called Logan out for his disrespectful attitude. Theory told Logan that this business existed long before Logan showed up and will exist long after he gets bored and leaves, and that while he's here he needs to show respect to the people who've dedicated their lives to this industry. That's when Logan allegedly got in Theory's face and told him to mind his own business, that Theory is just jealous because Logan has accomplished more outside of wrestling than Theory ever will inside of it, and that Theory should be grateful that guys like Logan are even bothering to show up, because without mainstream stars like him, nobody would be watching this dying product anyway. Now you can imagine how well that went over with Theory, who despite his young age is fiercely protective of the wrestling industry and has immense pride in being a WWE superstar. Theory fired back by telling Logan that he's not a real wrestler, that his matches only look good because he's being carried by actual professionals, and that the moment Logan steps in the ring with someone who isn't being told to protect him, he's going to get exposed as the amateur he really is. This is where the situation went from a heated argument to a potential physical altercation, because according to multiple witnesses, Logan Paul stepped forward aggressively after that comment and got chest to chest with Austin Theory, and the two men started shoving each other. Logan reportedly told Theory that if he wants to find out how much of an amateur Logan is, they can settle it right there in the back, no cameras, no scripts, just the two of them. Theory, never one to back down from a challenge, accepted immediately and started taking off his jacket, and that's when several other wrestlers including, and this is important, some very respected veterans, jumped in to separate them. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know because this story is absolutely crazy. The wrestlers who separated them, and I'm not going to name names because my sources asked me to protect their identities, but let's just say they were main event level talents who command respect in that locker room, had to physically put themselves between Logan and Theory to prevent this from turning into an actual fight. And here's what makes this situation even more complicated: some of the wrestlers who broke it up were apparently more sympathetic to Theory's perspective, with one veteran reportedly telling Logan that Theory had a point and that Logan needs to show more respect to the business and the people who work there full time. Logan didn't take kindly to that intervention either, and according to sources, he made it clear that he doesn't need a lecture from guys who are working for a fraction of what he makes per appearance. That comment, if it's true, and multiple sources have confirmed this to me, did not go over well at all backstage, because one thing you don't do in a wrestling locker room is brag about money or act like you're above the business. Wrestling has a culture, it has unwritten rules, and one of those rules is that you show respect to the veterans and you show respect to the grind, regardless of how famous you are or how much money you have in your bank account. Logan Paul, coming from the YouTube and influencer world where flexing success is part of the culture, apparently doesn't understand or doesn't care about these wrestling traditions, and that's creating a massive problem backstage. After the two men were separated, they were both taken to different areas of the backstage to cool down, with Logan reportedly going back to his private locker room, because yes, Logan has negotiated for his own private locker room separate from everyone else, which is another point of contention with the roster, while Theory went back to the regular locker room area. But the drama didn't end there, because according to sources, both men were called into separate meetings with WWE officials, and this is where the story gets even more interesting because WWE is now in a really difficult position. On one hand, you have Logan Paul, who is undeniably a mainstream star who brings attention to WWE, who generates social media buzz, and who WWE has invested significant money and creative resources into. Logan's matches get covered by mainstream sports media, his involvement in WWE storylines trends on Twitter, and his presence at major events genuinely does increase interest from casual fans who might not otherwise watch wrestling. From a business perspective, WWE cannot afford to alienate Logan Paul, especially when they're trying to grow their audience and attract younger demographics who grew up watching Logan on YouTube. Drop a comment right now telling me if WWE should side with Logan or Theory in this situation. On the other hand, you have Austin Theory, who represents the future of WWE, who is there every single week putting his body on the line, who has been handpicked by management as someone they want to build around long-term, and who is beloved by many in the locker room for his work ethic and dedication. Theory is also saying things that a lot of the full-time roster agrees with, which is that part-time stars shouldn't be prioritized over the wrestlers who are there grinding every week. If WWE sides too strongly with Logan in this situation, they risk alienating their entire full-time roster and creating a morale problem that could have long-term consequences. The meetings that took place after the confrontation were reportedly intense, with Logan allegedly telling WWE officials that he's not going to tolerate being disrespected by someone like Austin Theory, who Logan views as a mid-card wrestler with an inflated sense of importance. Logan made it clear that if WWE wants to keep him around, they need to handle this situation and make sure that other wrestlers understand that Logan has earned his spot through his drawing power and his performance. Theory, meanwhile, reportedly told WWE officials that someone needs to check Logan's attitude before it creates bigger problems, and that allowing Logan to disrespect producers, veterans, and the business itself sets a dangerous precedent for other celebrity wrestlers or part-timers who might come in thinking they don't have to follow the same rules as everyone else. WWE officials were in a tough spot, because both men kind of had valid points from their perspectives, and the solution they came up with, at least for now, is reportedly to keep Logan Paul and Austin Theory completely separated when they're both at the same shows. They've been told to stay in different areas backstage, they've been told not to engage with each other on social media, and they've been told that any future interactions need to be scripted and approved by management. But here's where this gets really interesting from a creative standpoint, because WWE is now reportedly considering turning this legitimate heat into a work storyline, because the best wrestling storylines are always based on real emotions and real tension. There are discussions happening right now about whether WWE should acknowledge this confrontation on television, either through subtle references or through an actual storyline where Logan Paul and Austin Theory are positioned as rivals with a legitimate dislike for each other. The advantage of this approach is that the heat between them is real, the promos would be intense because both men genuinely have things they want to say to each other, and the matches would have a level of intensity that you can't fake when both competitors are actually trying to prove something to each other. The downside is that when real animosity exists between wrestlers, it's harder to control the narrative, and there's always the risk that someone goes too far either in a promo or in the ring. Smash that like button if you want to see Logan Paul vs Austin Theory as an actual feud. The locker room reaction to this entire situation has been mixed, and this is where it gets really fascinating because it's revealing some deeper divisions within the WWE roster about the direction of the company and how part-time and celebrity talent should be used. There's a faction of wrestlers, generally the younger guys who are still trying to establish themselves, who are completely on Austin Theory's side in this situation. They feel like they're killing themselves every week, working house shows that Logan Paul would never even consider appearing at, and then watching guys like Logan come in and get prominent positions on major shows without having paid the same dues. They view Logan's attitude as disrespectful to the business they love, and they appreciate Theory for standing up and saying what a lot of them are thinking but don't feel comfortable vocalizing. Then there's another faction of wrestlers, generally guys who are more established and secure in their positions, who think Theory needs to relax and understand the business side of things. These wrestlers recognize that WWE is a business, that mainstream stars like Logan Paul bring attention that benefits everyone on the roster, and that being territorial about spots and opportunities is counterproductive when the goal should be growing the overall audience so there's more opportunity for everyone. Some of these wrestlers have reportedly told Theory privately that he's not wrong about the respect issue, but that picking fights with guys like Logan Paul isn't going to help his career because WWE is always going to prioritize their mainstream crossover stars. There's also a third group, mostly veterans who have been around long enough to see these dynamics play out multiple times over the years, who are just watching this situation with amusement because they've seen the exact same conflict between full-time wrestlers and part-time stars dating back to the Rock and Stone Cold era, through the John Cena and part-time Legends era, and now with Logan Paul and the current roster. These veterans understand that this tension is just part of the wrestling business and always has been, and they're mostly just hoping that Logan and Theory can figure out how to coexist without creating a toxic environment that makes everyone else's job harder. The social media reaction to this story, as it's leaked out through various wrestling news sources and insider reports, has been absolutely insane, with fans completely divided on who's right in this situation. Logan Paul's fans, many of whom are younger and came to wrestling specifically because of Logan, are defending him aggressively, pointing out that Logan has had incredible matches, that his dedication to training and performing is evident, and that Theory just sounds jealous and bitter about Logan's success and star power. They're flooding social media with arguments that Logan has earned his spot through performance and that wrestling needs mainstream stars like him to stay relevant in modern entertainment culture. Comment whose side you're on and why. I want to hear your take on this. Austin Theory's supporters, who tend to be more traditional wrestling fans, are equally passionate in their defense of Theory, arguing that Logan Paul represents everything wrong with modern WWE, where celebrity and social media clout matter more than actual wrestling ability and paying your dues. They point out that Theory has been grinding in the industry for years, that he's a better pure wrestler than Logan will ever be, and that Logan's part-time status means he's taking opportunities away from guys who are there every week and deserve those spots more. The debate has become so heated that it's created genuine animosity between different factions of the WWE fanbase, which is either terrible for the wrestling community or fantastic for engagement, depending on how you look at it. WWE's corporate response to this situation has been predictably vague, with official statements saying that all talent are expected to conduct themselves professionally and that WWE does not tolerate backstage altercations, but sources indicate that privately, WWE executives are actually somewhat pleased with the attention this story is generating. In the modern wrestling landscape, mainstream attention is hard to come by, and a real-life confrontation between Logan Paul and Austin Theory that gets people talking, arguing, and engaging with WWE content is valuable even if it's stemming from legitimate backstage tension. There's a philosophy in wrestling that all heat is good heat as long as it translates to people watching, and WWE is definitely monitoring whether this controversy leads to increased interest in segments featuring either Logan or Theory. The question now becomes what happens next, because this situation cannot just remain in limbo forever with these two stars being kept apart and told not to acknowledge each other. WWE has several options for how to handle this moving forward, and each option has significant implications for both wrestlers and for the company. Option 1 is to keep them separated indefinitely, never put them in a program together, and hope that time cools down the tensions and they can eventually coexist professionally even if they're never going to be friends. This is the safest option but also the most boring from an entertainment standpoint, and it means WWE is leaving money on the table by not capitalizing on legitimate heat between two stars. Option 2 is to address the situation directly in a backstage segment or promo on Raw or SmackDown, where either Logan or Theory or both acknowledge the tension between them and turn it into a work storyline. This option allows WWE to control the narrative while still benefiting from the real emotions that exist between these two competitors. The risk here is that if the real animosity is too strong, someone might go off script and say something that creates an even bigger problem, or the matches might get too stiff and someone could legitimately get hurt because they're trying to prove something to each other rather than working cooperatively. Option 3, and this is the one that some people backstage are reportedly advocating for, is to put Logan Paul and Austin Theory in a program together immediately while the heat is still fresh and real. Have them cut intense promos on each other, build to a match at a major premium live event, and let them settle their differences in the ring where the best wrestler, or at least the one who can tell the better story, will emerge victorious. This option has the highest upside because the storyline would feel authentic and the intensity would be palpable, but it also has the highest risk because managing two performers who genuinely dislike each other is incredibly difficult and the situation could spiral out of control. Share this with every wrestling fan who needs to know about this insane backstage drama. There's also a fourth option that some people are floating, which is to use this tension as part of a larger storyline involving other wrestlers, perhaps putting Logan and Theory on opposite sides of a faction war or Survivor Series team where their animosity affects the entire group dynamic. This would allow WWE to benefit from the heat between Logan and Theory while distributing the focus among multiple performers and creating more complex storytelling opportunities. The challenge with this approach is that it requires Logan Paul to commit to a longer-term storyline, and Logan's sporadic schedule makes that difficult to execute consistently. Behind all of this drama and decision-making are some deeper questions about what WWE wants to be as a company moving forward. Are they primarily a wrestling promotion that values in-ring work ethic and dedication to the craft above all else, or are they an entertainment company that prioritizes mainstream stars and crossover appeal even if those stars don't fit the traditional wrestler mold? The tension between Logan Paul and Austin Theory isn't just about two individuals having a conflict, it's representative of a larger philosophical debate about the direction of professional wrestling in an era where traditional media is declining and social media influencers have massive platforms that can drive attention and revenue. Logan Paul represents the future that some people in WWE corporate desperately want, where celebrities and influencers view WWE as a legitimate platform worth their time and bring their massive audiences with them, creating a virtuous cycle of mainstream attention and increased revenue. If WWE can successfully integrate stars like Logan Paul, it validates their strategy of courting celebrity talent and proves that wrestling can still be cool and relevant to younger generations who might not have grown up watching traditional wrestling television. But if the Logan Paul experiment creates too much tension with the full-time roster and damages morale, it could undermine the entire foundation of the company by making the wrestlers who are there every week feel undervalued and disrespected. Austin Theory represents something equally important, which is the traditional path of WWE superstardom where someone dedicates themselves entirely to the business, pays their dues, respects the veterans and the system, and gradually earns their spot through consistent performance and commitment. This model has produced every legendary WWE star from Stone Cold to The Rock to John Cena to Roman Reigns, and abandoning it entirely in favor of celebrity crossovers would be a massive gamble that could alienate the core wrestling fanbase that has supported WWE for decades. But clinging too rigidly to tradition when the media landscape is changing rapidly could also leave WWE stuck in the past and unable to compete for attention in an increasingly crowded entertainment marketplace. Drop a comment telling me what you think WWE's priorities should be. The other wrestlers are watching this situation very carefully because how WWE handles the Logan Paul and Austin Theory confrontation will send a message about what the company values and who gets protected when conflicts arise. If WWE sides too obviously with Logan Paul, it tells the full-time roster that mainstream star power and drawing ability matter more than anything else, including respect for the business and dedication to the craft. That might motivate some wrestlers to focus more on building their outside brands and social media followings rather than on in-ring performance, which could fundamentally change the culture of the company. If WWE sides too obviously with Austin Theory, it tells potential celebrity crossovers that WWE isn't worth their time because they'll be subjected to hazing and gatekeeping from traditional wrestlers who don't respect outsiders, which could kill WWE's ability to attract mainstream stars in the future. The most likely outcome is that WWE tries to walk a middle path where they publicly support both wrestlers, privately tell both of them to grow up and be professional, and then figure out how to either use their heat constructively in a storyline or keep them separated until the tensions naturally dissipate over time. But the middle path is often the most unsatisfying option because it doesn't fully resolve anything and leaves everyone involved feeling like the situation wasn't properly addressed. Logan Paul probably wants WWE to publicly validate his star power and tell Austin Theory to back off, while Theory probably wants WWE to make an example of Logan by teaching him that respect for the business matters regardless of how famous or wealthy you are. The timing of this confrontation is also significant because it comes at a moment when WWE is trying to build momentum heading into their next major premium live event, and having two of their featured performers in a legitimate backstage conflict creates complications for booking and creative planning. Do you put them both on the same show and risk another confrontation? Do you keep them on separate brands temporarily? Do Do you acknowledge the situation on television or pretend it never happened and hope fans don't notice the obvious tension? These are the questions that WWE producers and writers are grappling with right now, and there's no easy answer that satisfies all the competing interests and concerns. What makes this situation even more complicated is that both Logan Paul and Austin Theory have legitimate arguments from their respective perspectives, and neither one is entirely wrong or entirely right. Logan can rightfully point to his mainstream appeal, his impressive athletic performances, his dedication to training for his matches, and the attention he brings to WWE as evidence that he's earned his spot and deserves respect. Theory can rightfully point to his years of grinding, his full-time commitment, his respect for wrestling tradition, and his consistent presence as evidence that he's earned the right to call out someone who doesn't show proper respect to the business. The conflict exists because both men value different things, they measure success and respect using different metrics, and neither one is willing to fully compromise their perspective. If you've watched this far, you're part of the real wrestling community. Hit that subscribe button. The broader wrestling community is also watching this situation because it's not unique to WWE. Similar tensions exist in AEW and other promotions where part-time or celebrity wrestlers are used alongside full-time performers. How WWE navigates this conflict could set precedents for how other wrestling companies handle similar situations, and it could influence whether more celebrities and influencers decide wrestling is worth their time or whether they decide the cultural complications aren't worth the hassle. Logan Paul's experience in WWE will be studied by other potential celebrity crossovers who are considering whether to get involved in wrestling, and if Logan ends up feeling disrespected or unwelcome despite his success, it might discourage others from following his path. The resolution of this confrontation, whatever it ends up being, will reveal a lot about WWE's priorities, their vision for the future, and their ability to manage complex personality conflicts in a high-pressure entertainment environment. Will they choose mainstream appeal over traditional wrestling culture? Will they find a way to honor both perspectives? Will they turn this legitimate heat into compelling television? Or will they fumble the situation and create lasting damage to relationships and morale? We don't have definitive answers yet, but we're going to be watching very closely as this story develops, and you can bet that every detail that emerges will be covered right here on this channel. If this video gave you insight into what's really happening behind the scenes in WWE, if you appreciate getting the full story with all the context and competing perspectives, then I need you to do 3 things right now. First, absolutely destroy that like button and let YouTube's algorithm know that wrestling drama and backstage stories are what people want to see. Second, drop a comment telling me whose side you're on, Logan Paul or Austin Theory, and explain your reasoning because I want to have a real discussion about this in the comments section. And third, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell because we're going to be following this story as it develops, and when new information emerges about what happens next between Logan Paul and Austin Theory, you're going to want to be among the first to know. This has been the full breakdown of the explosive backstage confrontation between Logan Paul and Austin Theory on Monday Night Raw, a situation that reveals deeper tensions about the direction of wrestling and the culture clash between traditional wrestlers and modern crossover stars. I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue covering the stories that WWE doesn't always want you to know about. Until then, keep watching wrestling, keep questioning the narratives you're being fed, and remember that the most interesting stories in wrestling often happen when the cameras aren't rolling.